Hi, I'm Jayne Groll, CEO of the DevOps Institute. I'm really excited to be here at Jenkins World this week. As you can hear, there's a lot of buzz going on about Jenkins and continuous delivery and continuous integration. I'm here with Gavin Mogan of SauceLabs. Gavin's a senior software engineer. We're going to talk a little bit today about automated and continuous testing. So welcome, Gavin.
Thank you.
So, Gavin, one of the themes I've picked up this week in pre-class training that we did, and also just from talking to people on the exhibit floor, is continuous testing seems to be a challenge for a lot of organizations. What do you think that is?
I would have to go with it's just hard to get started. I've actually done many talks at meetups and conferences, and the key thing is just get started small, because it's a big daunting task if you look at the whole problem. But if you break it down into a small thing, get one test going, it's very easy to move on to a second test. But companies just spend a lot of time worrying about everything being done as quick as possible.
And so what's the role of QA when we start to get into continuous testing?
It's pretty much a balance. You want QA to be involved, heavily involved, because their specialty is focusing on things you don't think about, while the developers want to specialize on things you do think about.
And so looking at Jenkins as a platform and the integration of automated testing into the CI/CD pipeline, what would you give as a good suggestion for getting started with that?
My suggestions always get started small. Write one test that says, is my site up and running? Or, if I hit this page, do I get an error message? And just start as small as possible. And you go from there to, does it log in? Or, does it have the text I want it to? Just as small as possible. And once it gets going, it's very easy to keep going.
It's really interesting because at DevOps Institute, we've been researching emerging practices. And one of the practices that really emerged was that testing and test competencies, capabilities, really have to go beyond the QA. Everybody essentially needs to be a tester in some way or another, even operation folks.
Yeah.
What have you seen about that?
I'm less experienced than I'd like to be in that subject, but Puppet, Chef, Ansible, they all have great testing frameworks. I'm personally on the website right now, so React has become incredibly easy to test. And then, like I said, SauceLabs is good at doing the whole package. So anywhere you go, someone's going to want to test it, and you don't usually have to write everything from scratch yourself. Someone else out there is going to have something to get you started.
And that's a great point, because you were really responsible for helping to build the plugin, right, between SauceLabs and Jenkins. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I actually, when I came to SauceLabs, had no development Jenkins experience. I've been using it for many, many years, but just the basics. And, I was told, yeah, we got to get started on this. And we broke it down into, we want to make it so that every user of Jenkins should be able to see SauceLabs reports. We don't want to have them log in on every time they look at it. So we focused there. So results from any SauceLabs build is directly embedded in your Jenkins. You don't need to be logged in as Sauce user. You can share accounts that way. You can have one Jenkins account. And then we wanted to make it very easy to manage credentials, because I have so many credentials stuck in my head. I just want, one place. We set up the one credential and it works on all the tests just fine. So that was our focus.
And isn't that part of the challenge, right? I mean, DevOps is so big and there's so many different opportunities for architecting and orchestrating the pipeline, right? So again, let's go back to simple starts. So if you were going to advise a customer on just a really simple way to get started, using the plugin and certainly looking at Jenkins customers.
Yeah, so actually I've worked with many of the other developers in-house, and we've come up with sample frameworks on just about everything we can get our hands on. So we have lots of JUnit samples, we have lots of Java, Ruby, anything you want. But again, it just comes back to get Jenkins installed. They have Docker images to do it now, right out of the box. I think our plugin might even come with it. I'm not sure. And yeah, just hook it up, set up a free trial, and you can go within a couple minutes.
Do you deal at all with developers? I mean, I know the whole concept of test-driven development is really starting to bubble up. What have you seen about that?
I'm a huge fan of test-driven development. I have products I've heard from past jobs that are like 5 or 10 years ago that are still running today, and that's because I try to start small, I do one or two things, and then again, when I make a change, I'm not scared. I can spend my time working on new features and not worrying about breaking old features. So I spend a lot of time with test-driven development to the point where I'm now faster running a new test than I am writing new functions.
Right, because you're a software engineer,
Yeah.
so you kind of live that life on a regular basis. What kind of results have you seen? I mean, have you seen your efforts and what comes out of your development go into production faster? Are they higher quality?
Yeah, so we just started rewriting our billing system, and it's a terrifying endeavor. Billing is one of those things when as soon as you have money involved, it's scary. And so we've been writing a minimum of 2 tests for every test case. Like, we are going over, above, and above, but it's billing. You got to be careful. And that means that we can come in and refactor the event-driven frameworks without concern, because we know the old ones still work because our tests are there. And we can rapidly have a new version running. I mean, we're not in production yet, but we can have a new one running in the 5 minutes, ready to go, launchable, and we're not worried about it. A new feature rolls out, we'll do a little bit of testing, then we roll it out to production.
So if you were going to give advice to a developer, because again, this is kind of a new norm, right?
Yeah.
It's a new norm for them in terms of how they approach coding. What would be your best piece of advice?
Start, it's repeating them, start small, it's okay for your test to be broken to start with, if you're doing pure TDD, it's really great to have a broken test, then you fix your thing, then you test again. And the important thing is test again right away, because if you start refactoring, you're going to have broken code really quickly. So broken test, fix the thing, fix the test. And I always start with bugs. If I come into a legacy program and I get a bug report, I create a test for that bug so I understand that bug, and then I can move forward knowing that that bug will never show up again. A similar one might, but that one specifically won't.
Yeah, and again, I think the message is start small, stay small, grow gradually, right?
And it'll grow really quickly. And when someone new comes on board, you now have documentation that's evolving, because every single function is now documented, what it should return, what it should bring in, how it should work, not stale.
So what's your observation? I mean, the Jenkins world launched a little bit last night, and today's really our first full day. What observations have you seen?
I'll admit, I've been just enjoying the booth. I have not been going to the conference, but the energy here is always great. This is my second year coming, and everyone's always curious, wants to learn best practices of how to do things better. And I was around last year when they announced Blue Ocean, so I'm kind of curious and excited to see what comes out this year. So I'll be reviewing all the talks after the booth. So
yeah. And I was here last year as well, and I noticed that really it seems like there's a really big growth in the number of people attending, and the energy is just tremendous, right?
Yeah, it's like the first 10 minutes of booth, we were overwhelmed. We have 3 times more people here than we normally do at a booth, and we were overwhelmed. So it was great.
Good.
So.
All right, well, thank you, Gavin. Really great insight on testing. I think testing is really bubbling up as being a core competency for pretty much everyone in IT. So I'm Jayne Groll, CEO of the DevOps Institute. This is Gavin Mogan of SauceLabs, and we're here at Jenkins World today.